Hi everyone, it's Miss Kozin, and this is just a quick little math review video on adding and subtracting fractions. Now our first problem is 2/3 plus 11/3, and as you can see, the denominators are the same, so we can go right ahead and add our fraction. Now 2 plus 11 is 13. So we're going to write 13. And then over, and we just want to carry over our denominator. We don't add the denominators. So our answer is 13/3. Now for our next problem, it's 9/10 plus 1/6. And as you can see, the denominators are not the same. So we're going to have to find a common multiple between 10 and 6 so that we can convert those so we can add our fractions. So now it's usually easier to start with a higher number and find a least common multiple between 10 and 6. And when we do 10 times 1, it's 10, 10 times 2 is 20, 10 times 3 is 30, and 30 is also a common multiple of 6. So we're going to convert our fractions with it being over 30. So we're going to write out over 30. And when you think, how do we get 10 to 30? Well, when we were going through our common multiples, it's just 10 times 3. So you want to multiply 10 times 3 to get 30. Sorry about the handwriting. And whatever we do to the denominator, we want to do to the numerator, because we want it to have the same value. So since we did 10 times 3 to get 30, we also have to do 9 times 3. And 9 times 3 is 27. So we want to write 27 on the top to get 27/30ths, which is the same as 9 over 10. And then we want to do the same to 1/6. So we want to write over 30. And how do we get 6 to 30? We want to multiply by 5. And remember, whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So, what is 1 times 5? And it's 5. So when we get 5/30ths. And then when we add those two together, because remember we're adding, because now we have the same denominator so we can add our fraction, it's going to equal, so you want to do 27 plus 5, and you get 32. And then remember, we just want to bring over our denominator, which is 30. And it looks like we can simplify this fraction. And it kind of looks like common multiple would be 2. And remember, we have to do the same thing to both the top and the bottom, the numerator and the denominator. So then when we divide by 2 to both the numerator and the denominator, so 32 divided by 2, we get 16. And then 30 divided by 2, we get 15. Sorry. So then we have our answer. So 9/10 plus 1/6 equals 16/15, or 16/15. And we have one more adding fraction problems. I encourage you to pause the video so you can try and figure it out for yourself to get that extra practice, but I am going to go into solving it. So we have 6/4 plus 5/8. And now, since we don't have the same denominators, we have to find that least common multiple of 4 and 8. And when we go with the higher number of 8, 8 times 1 is 8, and that's also a common multiple of 4. So our least common multiple is 8. So that means we only have to convert 6/4. So how do we get 6/4 to have it over 8? So what multiplied by 4 gets you 8? So it's going to be 2. And remember, whatever you do to the numerator, the denominator, you have to do to the numerator so it's the same value. So 4 times 2 is 8, and 6 times 2 is 12. And then we can keep 5/8 because it already has that denominator of 8. And then that equals, so now since we have our common multiple of 8, we can just add the two fractions. So we want to do 12 plus 5, which is 17. And then we just want to carry over our denominator, which is 8. So the answer to 6/4 plus 5/8 is 17/8. And now we're going to go into subtracting fractions. So it's important to remember adding and subtracting fractions basically has the same rule. You want to have the same common denominator. So now our first problem is 7/12 minus 2/12. And as you can see, they already have the same denominator, so we can just go ahead and subtract our fractions. So now 7 minus 2 is 5. And then it's important to remember we just want to bring over our denominator. We do not subtract our denominator. It stays the same. So we have 5/12. Now our next problem is 4/3 minus 1/5. And as we can see, the denominators are not the same. So we're going to have to find the least common multiple of 3 and 5 so that we can convert them to subtract our fractions. Now when we look at 3 and 5, 5 is the higher number. And we want to find the least common multiple. It doesn't have to be the least common multiple, but it's usually simpler when you do find the least common multiple. So now a least common multiple between 3 and 5, let's think. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. And that's also a common multiple of 3. So now all we have to do is convert. So we want our bottoms to both have the denominator of 15. So how do we get 3 to 15? We want to multiply 3 by 5. And remember, whatever we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom. So 5 times 3 is 15. And now we have to also do 4 times 5. And 4 times 5 is 20. And now, how do we get 5 to 15? We want to do 5 times 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. And now we also want to do 1 times 3. And 1 times 3 is 3. So now that we have our denominators the same, we can go ahead and subtract our fraction. So what is 20 minus 3? 20 minus 3 is 17. And then remember, we just want to bring over our denominator. So that would be 15. And that's our answer, 17 over 15, 17/15. And our last problem is 7/10 minus 5/8. And again, I encourage you to pause the video here, so if you want to try it on your own, and then I'll go over it with you to see if you got it correct. But we're going to go in right now to solve it. So 17/10 minus 5/8. And as we can see, the denominators are not the same, so again, we have to find the least common multiple of 10 and 8. So going in over to our highest number, which is 10, 10 times 1 is 10, 10 times 2 is 20, 10 times 3 is 30, 10 times 4 is 40, and 40 is a common multiple of 8. So 40 is going to be our goal to convert our fractions. So then, how do we get 7/10 to equal something over 40? So 10 times what gives you 40? It's 4. So since we did 10 times 4, we have to do 7 times 4, because we have to do whatever we do to the denominator to the numerator to keep the value the same. So what is 7 times 4? 7 times 4 is 28. Now, how do we get 5/8 to equal a number over 40? So how do we get 8 to 40? What times 8 equals 40? Well, 8 times 5 equals 40. And so since we're doing 8 times 5 to get 40, we have to do 5 times 5 to keep the value the same. So what is 5 times 5? 5 times 5 is 25. And now we have our denominators the same, so we can go ahead and subtract our fractions. So what is 28 minus 25? 28 minus 25 is 3. And then we just carry over our denominator, which is 40. So 7/10 minus 5/8 equals 3/40, or 3 over 40. And I don't think it needs to be simplified. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps.